Welcome to Plaza Libertad in San Salvador. It's called the Liberty Square. And this monument right here, if you see, it says 5th of November 1811. That's the day the independence movement, the first independence movement by the El Salvadorians started against the Spanish conquistors. And eventually that initial movement was shut down, but El Salvador did become independent from the Spanish in 1821. And at that point, El Salvador wasn't its own country. I think it was a part of the Mexican Empire, still independent from the Spanish. But 1841 is when El Salvador became kind of an independent entity for the first time. In front of us is the National Palace of El Salvador. And in this palace, a lot of the important ministers of the country sit. And it's also a museum that you can visit after 10 a.m. It's pretty early right now. And there's also the Metropolitan Cathedral of El Salvador. El Salvador has definitely had a very violent history in the past, and so after independence, one of the main things that happened in this country was the Civil War. The Civil War started in 1979 and it lasted for 13 years, and during that time a lot of El Salvadorians left the country. A lot of them emigrated to the US, to the point that 3 million El Salvadorians live in the US today. The country itself has 6 million people, so 50% of that size lives in the US. Main reason for the conflict was the conflict between the left and the right political ideologies of the country. The right was in the power, supported by the US, and then the left guerrillas wanted to stage a coup, and the left guerrillas were supported by the Soviet Union. So as usual, it's the typical story of two big world powers fighting over influence of this small country. But in the end, who it affected the most negatively was the people of this country. In the end, 75,000 people ended up dying. The way this conflict ended was in a peace agreement in 1992, where the left and the right parties agreed to not indulge in violence anymore. The right-leaning party, Arena, that's the party that took over power in El Salvador, and they were in power until 2009. And in 2009 is when the left party called FMLN, I kind of like their short name, FML, and they took over power in 2009, and they were in power until pretty recently, actually 2019. The first president from the left party who was in power, he had to actually leave the country for corruption charges, and he escaped to Nicaragua. In 2019, the political party that came into power, it was neither Arena party, that's right, or the FMLN party, that's left. It was a new party called Nuevas Ideas, which means new ideas, and it was led by the current president, Nayib Bukele, who took over the country by storm. He was a mayor of one of the smaller cities of El Salvador, and he came into power, and now he controls, I think, something like 70 or 80% of the legislative assembly with a clear majority. And both the right and the left party have like about 10 to 15% of the seats. And since Bukele has come into power, he's completely turned around this country. From being one of the most dangerous cities, San Salvador being one of the most dangerous cities in the world, El Salvador being the murder capital of the world, it has become one of the safest countries in Latin America. I mean, I'd heard Bukele say that in some of his speeches, but I didn't buy it. But now that I'm here, it's so true. Like, I have not felt safer in any other country in Latin America than El Salvador. Like, the change he's made in the last 3 to 4 years, it's just amazing. I can tell you what I see here. What I see is a country that's really safe now. People who love the president, people who live in peace and are very happy. So respect to the president who's managed to change things, not get influenced by big powers, and actually do great for his country. I wish more of these Central American and Latin American countries have people like that who change the situation in the country completely. People in this country love him, they agree with him, and that's why he's known as the president with the highest popularity out of any president in the world. But as usual, you know, the Western government, especially the US, they show a lot of negative propaganda about the president of El Salvador. There's definitely two sides to any story, but I've noticed that, you know, most media channels really highlight the negative side of this president, and they try to avoid talking about how life for the people here has changed. And anyone I talk to, Uber drivers, normal people of El Salvador, they all say like life is so much better now compared to 4 or 5 years ago, when they had, you know, American or other puppet governments running the country. And now there's finally a strong leader who...
Where do you come from?
India.
From India.
Yeah. This guy speaks 7 languages. Jose? Jose. This is Jose. He's 60 years old. He grew up in Canada. Yeah. People here are very friendly. Muy amable.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, I forgot where I was at because I got interrupted by that kind man who had a 15-minute conversation with me, took my number and wants to stay in touch. That's the thing in El Salvador. Like, people are the friendliest here, hands down, in all of Latin America. Okay, Colombia is really friendly, but El Salvador takes it to a whole other level. Like, anywhere I go, I always have people come up and talk to me. Like it's just, and look around me, not a single tourist. It's because people are still scared to come here. And this is the time. Like, before, you know, they make a Costa Rica out of this, the prices go up, everything's about tourism. Come here, like, you're gonna feel genuine culture, genuine people just, you know, trying to know you, and you should know this beautiful country and the beautiful people. It's just amazing. So yeah, now I'm gonna walk around a little bit, maybe look for the central market, quickly swing by the church, and then head back to my hotel and catch my flight before it's too late. So yeah, this is the Metropolitan Church of San Salvador. It's one of the most important churches of the country. It's interesting that I think there's a lot of students here who are trying to draw something there. See? Everyone has a notebook and they're drawing something. There's more people drawing here than actually praying. Unfortunately, the Iglesia Del Rosario is closed right now, but it's very significant for El Salvador because this church caused a lot of controversy. Because if you look at it, this is not how churches normally look. So at the time in 1960s when it was being constructed, it led to a lot of controversy, to the point that the Pope himself supervised the construction of this church. Alright, let me go find a taxi, and next we're gonna go to the National Craft Museum. I'm probably gonna spend 20 minutes there and then head back to the hotel. I've made it to the National Craft Market. Let's see what this is about. So that right there is the young president who's been ruling for 4 years and has completely changed the country. Yo tuve en El Salvador. I think that means I was in El Salvador eating pupusas and I liked it. Interesting. Funny t-shirt. Even the souvenirs that sell here are saying the president who's making history. You can hang this on your wall. That is my Uber. Alright, this is it. That was my last thing to see in San Salvador. Time to go to my hotel, pack up and go to the airport. I don't want to leave. No. Yeah, so that's, what's your name? Rigo. Yo, you work for United, yeah, right? So friendly. That's what I'm saying. El Salvador has the friendliest people. He just changed my flight for me. He's so nice about it. I'm so sad I'm going to the US. Like, El Salvador is way better than the US. Just come here, man. Like, best country in the world.
Yeah.
All right, cheers, man. Thanks. I'll post the video. Yeah. So I'm at the airport now, and again, this country keeps on giving. You know, like come on, airline staff, they're like the biggest assholes usually, at least in the countries that I live in, the US, Canada. They're usually the biggest assholes. They're like, oh, what are you doing here? Why are you going there? Oh, show me that, show me this. And he started asking me the same questions, like, oh, where did you go in El Salvador? I was like, why do you care? Then I was like, oh, he's just trying to know how I like the country. Like, damn, and he's so nice. He changed my flight to an earlier flight, gave me the best seats possible, like changed all the seats, put in all the work. Like, this amazing people, amazing country. Like, I'm so sad. I'm at the immigration now. I'm gonna leave this country. Oh my god, it's so sad. Like, yeah, such a hidden gem. Like, this is why I love traveling, like, for real, to come to countries like this when no one comes and just meet the best people ever and like break these stereotypes, you know, like, insane. I think I'm gonna stop recording because I'm in immigration.